interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
A robot.
Hello, everyone, and hello, humans. Welcome to Not a Robot's Marvel Comics Weekly Review Show. Today we are talking about Phoenix Song Echo number 1, United States of Captain America number 5, Death of Doctor Strange number 2, Fantastic Four number 37, Amazing Spider-Man number 76, X-Men number 4, Darkhold Iron Man, Gamma Flight number 5, Immortal Hulk number 50, Trial of Magneto number 3, and Thor number 18. My name is Kirk, and I am the Kree Chronicle of comic books, and I'm joined by a lovely and esteemed panel of judges. We have Brandon.
I'm here on loan from the X-Men, but I'm hoping to do a good job.
And Cyril.
Yes, Cyril's my human name. I'm still waiting for my mutant name from Stan Lee, Divinely.
Mm-hmm.
We are here to read, critique, and review Marvel's weekly releases without any interference from the publisher. If you like our show, you can find us on Twitter at NotARobotComics, and you can find me on Twitter at KirkHopko. We answer show mail sent to notarobotcomics@gmail.com. And before we get going, I just want to say thank you to all our Patreon supporters. You guys help us out with $1 or more every month, and we want to thank all of our listeners too. You can like, download, and share our episodes so we can get more listeners and keep bringing you more of the content you love. You can get access to our Patreon and the rest of the amazing Not a Robot podcast shows at notarobotpodcasts.com. Before we dive into the reviews or the news, you might have heard we have a new host with us today. I'd like everyone to welcome Cyril to the Marvel Comics Weekly Review Show.
Hello. Great to be here.
So, Cyril, we're super happy to have you. I don't know if you want to take a minute to just share a little bit about yourself, your experience with comic books, just anything you want to share before we jump in. Doesn't have to be too much. I know I didn't prep you on this.
Right. Well, lifelong Spider-Man fan. I guess I probably learned colors looking at Spider-Man, red and blue, and green and yellow, and all the other colors that Spider-Man has. I've started reading all the Spider-Man comics right from issue number 1, 1963. I hope I will finish this in the next 3 months. That's just about it for me.
Very impressive feat.
That's an impressive goal.
Yes. It's been on the bucket list for a while, and I'm kind of preponing the bucket list just for this one.
Mm-hmm. I've always wanted to pick a character to try and either read or acquire their entire
history
feature list.
Yeah.
I obviously couldn't pick someone as massive as Spider-Man if I was going to try and buy all of them, but I think it would be a cool little adventure to try and track down every appearance of a nice B or C list character.
Yeah.
All right, well, we can dive into the news segment. I don't have a lot for us today. In terms of news, I was just on Brandon's recommendation. I was just reading through the January solicitations.
Yeah, those dropped, I want to say, Friday of this week, and just kind of updating us all on some of the new stuff that's coming in January. There's a couple of new books. I'd say kind of a lot of stuff tying in with the Devil's Reign event. There's obviously going to be a lot of tie-ins there, so get ready for that.
Mm-hmm.
But a couple of new series here and there, some limited stuff. And a new She-Hulk series, which I think is going to be pretty cool, from Rainbow Rowell and Roger Antonio, who did Runaways together, or Rainbow Rowell did Runaways, and that was a great book, so it should be good. And then I guess we get a little bit more information on some of the other stuff that had been previously announced on that. They did kind of like a MCU type thing where they had the calendar of stuff that was coming up, and one of the ones was Reckoning War, and we have a little bit more information on that. There will be an alpha out in January, as well as the Avengers Forever event, and a new Sabretooth series from Victor Laval and Leonard Kirk, which is not going to be an ongoing, but actually a 5-issue miniseries, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff. I'd say, give the whole announcement a read through when you can. There's lots of cool new series coming out.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited for the new Ron Mars and Ron Lim Silver Surfer movie.
Yeah, it should be good.
Especially since the blurb that teases about it is someone is using the reality gem to resurrect Mar-Vell.
Oh, jeez.
Wow. I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like, we don't get a lot of comics where they dare to bring Mar-Vell back. So.
Yeah, no, they I think only like briefly brought him back for kind of a more like gimmicky thing during Civil War, and then usually that's the one they don't touch. That and Uncle Ben.
Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. So I'm excited for that. Going to touch briefly on the one other piece of news I have because it's sort of news. Eternals premiered earlier this week in America. It hasn't hit theatrical release, but the premiere happened. And some of you may have noticed, and for those of you who don't, this is your warning. A Variety writer did tweet a spoiler from one of the post-credits scenes of the film.
Of course he did.
The spoiler is related to a new character appearing and the actor playing them. I was not able to avoid the actor piece. A lot of articles hit my feed saying, welcome this actor to the MCU. And then through accidentally wanting to figure out what the hell that was all about, I also found out who the character was and that I had read a spoiler. I don't know what events or that this character participates in, so I'm desperately trying to avoid that. So please don't spoil it any further if you know. But that spoiler is out there, and it's easy to stumble upon. So, audience, you have been warned.
Yeah, I'm gonna avoid that one like the plague because I have not seen that article, and I'm just like not gonna look for it at all unless some jerk that I know sends me it and spoils it for me, which I've had happen in the past. Like I had a friend who had seen what was it, Far From Home early and sent me the post-credit scene like probably a couple days before I was supposed to see it. I was like, oh, you dick.
Mm-hmm.
I had someone spoil Justice League 2 for me.
Oh, man.
With Superman coming.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's like, just don't do that.
Yeah, I know, seriously. I think spoil is probably the wrong word to use there.
And then the only other news I can think of is we're getting the Guardians of the Galaxy video game releasing this week. I don't know that I'll be able to sink my teeth into it in time to give first thoughts for next week's episode, but we'll find out. By the time some of our audience is hearing this, the game's probably already out and in their hands, so maybe they can tell me how it is. All right, we ready to dive into some comic books?
Let's do it.
Yep.
All right. We're going to start with Phoenix Song Echo Number 1. This comes to us by writer Rebecca Roanors, color artist by Carlos Lopez, and art by Luca Maresca, and lettering by Ariana Mar. And so this one cues in with Echo, our new Phoenix after the event of the Phoenix Tournament back in, what was that, Avengers 38 or something like that?
Something like that.
Where Echo is trying to be a superhero, but the power of the Phoenix is destructive, and she's finding that she's having difficulty containing it, and she's running into some errors with that. She is also learning that the Phoenix's sort of unbridled rage is latching on to her when she feels these strong emotions, and she's going to be struggling to control that. We see brief interactions between her and Forge, who has some strong feelings about the Phoenix as well, and then she reaches out to an old friend to help support her in controlling this power, and he has the ability to or she doesn't find that old friend, she finds a different friend who has the ability to look back through someone's timeline and has the ability to view Echo's ancestors and what they did, and cues her in onto what is going to be the central drama of this this series. And As an intro issue to the Phoenix song, I don't hate it. It's a good start. It captures the things I wanted to see about, like, okay, what's going on with the new Phoenix, because as much as the Phoenix Force got heavily overplayed in X-Men, it is a big gun that you kind of want to make sure it's not, or you kind of want to know what it's doing.
Yeah, and I feel like you can have, sometimes it can be pretty interesting when, you know, the Phoenix makes its return and you're like, oh, what's going to happen? But sometimes it's just like, oh, no, not again, like in Avengers versus X-Men or any of the other, like, similarly themed Phoenix events.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And so while I enjoyed this one, it was heavily an intro issue, but we did get to see a bit of Echo as Phoenix, which I enjoyed. And one of the things that I appreciated in this one that I have noticed was slipping in the Avengers comics is the fact that Echo is deaf. And the Phoenix did not just remove that from her. She cannot hear. Yeah. She says to Elektra at one point in this issue, Elektra, come out so I can read your lips, which is nice. And in this issue, they make clear that anyone she's speaking to, she is looking at them face to face. And Avengers got the latest issues of that, I found, have gotten sloppy. They've had characters with masks speaking to her, and characters speaking to her in hallways that she responds to. That it just doesn't look like they gave much of a concern to the fact that this is a deaf character.
Yeah. Now was Echo a mutant? Remind me. I don't totally remember.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
She's just she just has photographic reflexes, presumably from whatever, like, same fluke of nature that gave them to Taskmaster.
Huh, okay. Just because she seemed to, like, have that kind of connection to the X-Men and also to Brew. So I assumed, like, kind of as, like, maybe as a tangential mutant, like, she was kind of connected to the X-Men, but I don't remember too much from Echo's origin story.
The blurb at the beginning does not cite that she's a mutant. Okay. And I distinctly remember when Echo became the Phoenix that Jean telepathically reached out to her, and I remember the vibe of that conversation was that you may not be a mutant, but we share a bond,
right,
or something. Like,
yeah.
So with that, I thought this was a good issue. I gave it a 7.5. It pays good respect to the things that make the character interesting, and I'm interested to see where this is going to go. But I don't have any strong feelings, like, really positively or negatively towards this issue. It's just a good start.
Yeah, I kind of felt a very similar way, where it was, I really liked some of the scenes where it's kind of her trying to reconcile with the Phoenix powers, and I love the opening where it's like, you know, I'm trying to do good and use the Phoenix force as a positive force to stop these robbers, but I end up kind of creating much more havoc, and then I basically just lose control after a point. And I was like, all that stuff was pretty cool, a pretty cool setup. But I know this is probably like I think like a 5-issue miniseries, or 5 or 6-issue miniseries, and it's like, I hope that is not something that we're reading for like 5 issues of just, I'm trying to use it for good, but I fail every time, because that is going to get redundant real fast. So I'm hoping that maybe they can get into more of the mysteries soon, and use that as kind of a way to have, you know, the best of both worlds, where it's like she's also trying to reconcile with her powers, but also it's tied into the story. It's not just one over the other. So yeah, it was a 7.5, pretty solid artwork, like just a decent read, I would say, a decent start.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Sorry. No, I concur. I enjoyed the initial pages when she's trying to reconcile with, understanding the power. Oh my God, I've killed these people. I'm a superhero and all of that. And then being chased by the Avengers, or Elektra, I believe. And yeah, it's a great one. But given that it's a 5 or a 6 issue mini series, I hope they get beyond this and really explore the character a lot more.
I also, yeah, and it's funny now that we mentioned that. I want to shout out that I think it's, of all of the characters in New York they could have picked to lecture Echo on murdering bad guys. Elektra, really?
Yeah.
That was the look.
I know.
I mean, her as Daredevil, she still uses her
Her size. And like, I mean, even if she's, only using like what the ends of it to disarm people or knock them out, like still is able to use deadly force if she wanted to. But she made her promise to Matt, but it's like, yeah, get off your high horse, Elektra. We can all call you out on that.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. Aside from the promise she made to Matt, I'm sitting here like, wasn't the central tension between her and Daredevil for a long time that he didn't go far enough?
Exactly.
But yeah. All right, next up, we've got the conclusion to the United States of Captain America miniseries. Brought to us by writer Christopher Cantwell, art by Dale Eaglesham, color by Matt Mila, and lettering by Joe Caramagna. Brandon, I'll pass this one over to you.
Sure, yeah. So this one picks up off where the last one left us, where the 4 Captain Americas, or I guess really 3 Captain Americas, because Bucky is off right now doing his own thing, but have captured Superior and are trying to find out a way to make her talk, and John Walker steps in and he's like, all right, I got this. I'm not the Boy Scout. I know how to get the stuff out of her. And really all of them are kind of sitting around trying to figure out what to do next, how best to handle the situation to make sure that whatever hate monger's plan is, they are able to get ahead of it. And that's when John basically walks in and is like, yep, I got it. And he's like, what did you do, John? How did you get that information out of her? And he's like, well, I used a variety of things, such as rapid fire, silence, sleep adjustment, sensory deprivation. And Cap's just like, oh my God, what is wrong with you? And John's just like, hey, they are all allowed under the Geneva Convention, and you, as Captain America, should be aware that these things are all allowed as interrogation methods. And it's like, oh my God, John, what is wrong with you? That doesn't make it better. But Superior, using her wit and tongue, is able to taunt Speed Demon, who is acting like a total pompous ass in this and trying to really show his power, is able to fool him and escape quickly enough, meeting, what was her name? Krieger Frau? Was that her name? Or Frau Krieger?
Yeah.
Or something like that. Yeah, the woman who basically meets her and drives her off to where Hate Monger is. And basically they're able to escape, and that's when Cap's like, all right, we got to call Bucky and figure out a next move and try to determine where exactly we want to go, because they have been able to trace the relay signal at this point of Hate Monger's broadcast or intended broadcast, and they want to take quick action on that. Bucky is kind of warning them against that, saying, hey, let's try and be a bit cautious about this. Plus, Joe Merrick, the kind of army guy who had discovered Hate Monger's plot and had sort of been working against Hate Monger's plan, is like, hey, we need to be thinking about these people's safety first before we do something, half-cocked. And he's like, no, Bucky, you need to get here now. Like, move. Quickly, we need to take this out. And, Bucky's like, this is obviously a trap. Cap is walking into it, and this is not safe. And naturally enough, as soon as they show up on the islands, boom, it explodes, and they walked right into the trap like 2 total jackasses, which I thought was a little weird for Cap. Usually he's the one who's a bit more reserved and is wanting to, take things slow, plan it out a little bit more. But I don't know. I guess when some writers come in, they just kind of are like, I'm going to write Cap my way, because he was kind of acting that same way during AVX, not to bring up that storyline again, where he literally just like showed up on Genosha. He's like, all right, hand Hope over. Like, I'm not taking no for an answer. So I guess it just kind of depends on where you stand on Cap. But in any case, in Hate Monger's secret island base, he and John Walker are awakened, where he begins to monologue his master plan like a true villain, and reveals that this whole plot of stealing Cap's shield was to use it as a hypnotizing effect, or a tool of hypnotizing. I guess to put people in a suggestive state where they would be willing to believe anything, and they would be particularly susceptible into believing anything if it's a symbol that they really believe in, like Cap's shield, which is perfect for them. But Bucky and the soldier Merrick are able to rally the forces and fly over to California, the island outside of California, and stage an assault on the base. And they're able to disarm Hatemonger and everyone else, thankfully in time before they're able to spread their broadcast or anything bad like that. Merrick is able to capture Hatemonger in that little cube, the energy cage where they'd had before, and they're thankfully able to take out Superior as well. And it's all good stuff. Get to punch some Nazis. It's exactly what you want, but they don't realize that the broadcast is actually still going. And so that's when they kind of have this really great moment where the entire Captain's Network kind of steps up, really letting Aaron Fisher, the first Captain America that we met, kind of step in and give his little speech on what America is and all that stuff. And it's all very sweet. It's all very warm and touchy-feely. And it kind of ends on I guess kind of tying everything together, where at the first issue, Steve had been questioning the dream and feeling like it was just kind of a load, but now he's kind of come around to it, saying, I feel like I have hope in the dream again, especially after meeting all the people from the Captain's Network. And that's where we reveal that the museum exhibit that he'd kind of been, really iffy about, displaying his shield, is now displaying all of the Captain's Network shields, and we get to see every single shield, even John Walker's shield, which I thought was pretty funny. It's just hanging there, so I guess he's a part of it. I guess he did technically save the day, and Cap has a cute little moment with the kid at the end where he's like, everybody here is Captain America in some sense, and kind of ties it all together and leaves you with a big old smile on your face. So in terms of the story, I would say it wrapped it up pretty cleanly. Again, aside from some questionable choices made by Cap in terms of leadership, kind of charging headfirst into the Hatemonger's
lair.
Trap. Yeah, Hatemonger's lair, which to me felt like such an obvious trap and something that someone who's experienced as Cap would not fall for. But I feel like they kind of just needed that for plot convenience sake. But I can forgive that, because I feel like everything was tied together pretty neatly. So I enjoyed it. This was kind of a fun little mini-series, and I think a really interesting experiment with Captain America on this kind of cross-country adventure. And I definitely think it exceeded my expectations for the series, because initially when I saw that pitch of Captain America is going across the country to find his shield, you're just like, seriously? This is what we're doing? But they actually turned it into kind of like a really interesting and heartfelt story. So I liked it. I gave it an 8 out of 10, and I thought the art from Dale Eaglesham was just really great. He really knocked it out of the park in some panels, and especially that scene where he's like just drawing all the Captain Americas converging on the Hatemonger's base and busting through the ceiling, busting through the ceiling and the wall, actually, like the Kool-Aid Man. All that stuff was just really great. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's like a comic nerd's dream.
Yeah. You can see all these Captain Americas. You can have them all. And we get to see Bucky suit up his Cap again, which is really nice.
Right. Yeah. Just on that page, had I been 6 years old and I had this comic book in my hands, I would have probably cut those pages out and posted them on my wall.
Yeah,
that was a good one. I had the same impression too. This was very unlike Cap to just walk into the Hatemonger's lair. And I think at that point of time, Bucky himself says that something like, Cap doesn't realize that he can't order me around or something like that. There was I think there was a speech bubble or a thought bubble there, and I was like, okay, is the story gonna go anywhere else? And probably there is a interesting thought that Bucky voiced, but then I guess that really didn't go anywhere. Cap did go into the lair, and very unlike Cap.
Yeah, just sort of a weird moment, but
yeah.
But yeah, I also gave this one an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed it as a wrap up. It really brought together a lot of pieces that I really enjoyed in the conclusion here. And one of the things that I want to shout out was something that this issue did that kind of addresses a piece of the controversy this series was getting early on. And I've been sort of opposed to the controversy this series was getting because I found it was reactionary media really targeting sort of like a broad strokes like idea. Because when this series was first getting announced, they were showing off the Captain America of the Railway, this young like minority kid. They were showing off the Captain America of Kickapoo, like an Indigenous First Nations Captain America, and they were showing off a young woman Captain America and an Islam Captain America, and there was such a strong reaction from certain groups on the internet that they were trying to replace Captain America with some of these, or that they were trying to make a statement in a way that they were not responding positively to. But this issue, the Captain's Network character that they addressed in this issue was Captain Joe Merrick.
Yeah.
And he takes up a Captain America shield in the finale of this as well, and he is a white captain from the U.S. military who served in Afghanistan and Iraq, and he tells his story about having to protect his soldiers from the threats that were getting them, not just the enemies of the state, but also the dangers that just existed in their life at the time from scummy salesmen and stuff who would but who would come to bases and target stressed out kids. And the variant cover for this issue is him.
Yeah.
Variant number 5 is that, because the point was never that anyone else is more deserving of Captain America, because there was such weird hate to this concept. But this issue really circles back to the idea that no, everyone was Captain America. Not one people, not one minority, it's not about replacing Captain America. It's about everyone living up to it. And it wasn't exclusionary.
Yeah, and it's, I think kind of like, and I think, and maybe I'm reading into it too much, but that's what we do here as readers. I thought it was kind of like a commentary on, kind of the impact of Captain America, where it's like you have this, symbol of, I don't know, American ideals or that sort of thing. And it's like, obviously that's not going to represent everyone under a broader picture. But, some of those more basic ideals, standing up for what's right and, defending the innocent and that kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, of course, everyone is going to see that and be like, oh, I would love to do that. And for me, the best way to express that is to, just help in small ways, even if it means, dressing up and making a DIY Captain America shield, which I still love. Mm-hmm. And I'm like contemplating doing that for Halloween because I think that would just be so much fun. Like my own like Cap Sona or whatever. But yeah, I think it's just almost like a commentary on Cap's unintended impact, but a welcome one, I would say. So I think that's really cool. I do, and I think as a story, I think it kind of worked its way pretty well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was it. It's just, and I know I'm Canadian, so maybe I don't.
Yeah, no, I'm the lone American here, so it probably hits home a little bit more. But no, I think in a even from an outsider looking in, I think you could still kind of look at this story and get a satisfying character arc for Captain America, who is kind of at this point in his life where he's like questioning, how he feels about where he's living, and then you get towards the end and he sees all these kids that inspire him, and it's like, oh yeah, the dream is still alive for me because there's hope in this next generation. So I think both insiders and outsiders can get a lot from this story.
Mm-hmm. All right. So next we're gonna hit up.
Oh wait,
Death of Doctor.
Cyril, did you give your score?
Right. Sorry.
Yeah, I would rate it about maybe 7.5.
Nice.
Awesome. Sorry about that. I completely forgot.
How dare you? Sorry.
All right. Next, we've got Death of Doctor Strange #2. Brought to us by Jed McKay writing, Lee Garbett on art, Antonio Fabela on color, and Corey Pettit on lettering. Cyril, do you want to
Absolutely.
talk about this one?
Absolutely. I really loved reading this because I think issue #1, it ended on a complete cliffhanger. We had an old Doctor Strange, as in way back from the 70s Doctor Strange coming back. And we learn more about him, that he's the failsafe that the current Doctor Strange created in the event that he died. And then finally we learn about the villains, the three mothers in this. There was a little bit of action with all the Avengers coming in. This issue did a good job of taking the story forward from the last issue. It's still WIP. It's issue #2 of 11 issue series. And yeah, I would give it about 7.5. It was a delight seeing the Steve Ditko Doctor Strange come back. I think of the 7.5 rating, maybe about 2 points entirely would be just for that. So yeah, it's a great book. I'm waiting for #3 to come up.
Yeah, awesome. I thought this book really it was really cool. I like what they're doing with the Death of Doctor Strange. I like how they started with this really dramatic shot of these interdimensional warlords,
Right.
coming in. I thought that was really cool.
Right.
The only note that I have in my comic as like a negative that I really was like, what? Was that the three monsters, the mothers, Crawling, Crown, and Weird, they show up, they beat the shit out of the Avengers, and then instead of continuing to win, they just say, we're gonna leave, but rest assured, we're gonna come back and win. And I'm so confused by, like, it seemed so, like, plot convenient for them to just decide to leave again.
I guess I think what they were saying, or at least how I took it, was like they got all the information they needed and then they'll be back or something. Like this was just like kind of we're just going to show up, kick your ass, show you who's on top, and then, you know, we'll be back to finish the job later. Which I was like, I get it, but I think I was initially in the same boat as you, where I was like, why didn't you just kill them?
Yeah,
you could. You clearly could have.
Yeah, they put down Iron Man, Captain America, Thor and Captain Marvel in moments. Like, and then they were just like, good enough.
Yeah. We'll come back.
And I was really confused by that. But all in all, I think it was really enjoyable. And we're in spooky month as... you know, as it is Halloween coming up, and so October is very much a month for that sort of thing. And with that in mind, I do want to say Crawling is such a creepy character.
Yeah, all these designs are great. Like, I have to say, they are the perfect designs for a Spooktober, if you will. Just like hideous to look at. And then there is the I forget her name, but the one who kind of only talks in lowercase letters, and it's almost like more disjointed. And she kind of has like multiple hands and is like deflecting blasts and stuff. And I was like, that was a great design, and just like kind of I just love that aesthetic for like a creepy Doctor Strange villain.
Yeah, I don't remember her name. She reminded me of an Egyptian kind of a villain or something like that. I don't remember her name. Yeah, but yes, the artwork is amazing in this.
Yeah, I gave this one an 8 out of 10. I did enjoy it, all else considered, and I kind of like the old Doctor Strange coming in and being like, I don't know who any of these people are.
Yeah, he definitely has like that very old 60s kind of speak, where he's like, you know, he's a lot more like pompous and you know, that sort of thing, and not quite as, I mean, you know, Doctor Strange still kind of has some of that occasionally, but I would say is much more relaxed than he was in his original inception. So yeah, it is pretty fun. But yeah, I also gave this one. Actually, no, I gave this one an 8.25, just because there were some panels here that I just really loved. Like I really love the artwork from Lee Garbett. Was that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, really really great stuff.
Awesome. Did everyone rate this one? Sorry.
Yes, it was a 7.5 from me, 8 from you, and 8.25 from Brandon.
Right. Sorry. I'm trying to keep up with my notes, and my computer's misbehaving. But let's move on.
It's spooky month.
Yeah.
Ghost in the machine.
Yeah.
All right, next we've got Fantastic Four number 37. This comes to us by Dan Slott on writing, Nico Leon on art, Dono Sanchez Amara on color, and Joe Caramagna on lettering. And this book covers a good middle point. It covers a bit about what some of the ongoing drama is, what with Johnny Storm still reeling from Doctor Doom infusing him with cosmic radiation, and then Mr. Fantastic sort of being obsessed with the message from his father to find his lost sister. But then in betwixt all of that, we get a sort of one-off issue about the Profiteer from the Casino Cosmica deciding to get Jovan and Nikki back by sending people to recover them. And this happens on Halloween when Jovan and Nikki are doing a Halloween prank to get a bunch of extra candy. And there's a resolution of the Profiteer's scheme. There's a resolution of the Halloween prank. And everything sort of remusters to position itself forward into the ongoing drama of Reed and Johnny are facing. And I know I sort of blurred through that, but honestly, as far as a 20-page sort of middle issue, I loved this issue. It was a lot of fun to have Jovan and Nikki sort of being kids and doing kid stuff, but there was a lot of the things that were introduced in their arc were wrapped up, and then we still got interesting and good conversations between Johnny and Spider-Man, and Sue and Richard, or Sue and Reed, about what's going on in them and what's going to come. So for an issue that doesn't necessarily move the big stuff forward, it didn't get so bogged down in middle tension or the one-offness of the Halloween shtick. It was a good, fun Halloween issue, and I felt a really pleasant stopping point. I ended up giving it an 8.5. I had such a good time with it.
Nice. I did not get a chance to read this one, but it sounds like it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, well...
sorry, go on.
Yeah, well, then I'm glad I didn't go too in-depth in my summary. You get to read a little bit about some fun Halloween hijinks with Jovan and Nikki. They're good kids. So next we have Amazing Spider-Man 76. This one comes to us from... Sorry, my notes are out of order. This comes to us by Zeb Wells on writing, Patrick Gleason on art, Marcio Meniz on coloring, and Joe Caramagna on lettering. Cyril, I'll pass it over to you for the summary.
Absolutely. I think the artwork alone puts the amazing part in the Amazing Spider-Man, especially in this one. It's mind-blowing artwork by Marcio Meniz. And the storyline, it's basically issue number 2 of a number of... I'm not sure how long this miniseries would be running for. So it basically picks up from the last issue. Peter Parker's in the hospital, and Ben Reilly's taking up the mantle as Spidey. It had a good start. Ben Reilly was reaching out to Aunt May and Mary Jane. There was this fine point where Aunt May knows that. So Ben Reilly calls them saying that I'm Peter Parker, I'm the hospital, and Aunt May quickly realizes it's not Peter there, Peter on the other side of the phone, and it kind of abruptly stops there with Aunt May, and then the story progresses. So basically, long story short, Ben Reilly takes on the Spidey mantle after getting permission and blessing from Peter Parker from his hospital bed. He goes on to become Spider-Man and Kick-Ass. And while Peter Parker is in trouble in the hospital, it also ends on a cliffhanger. Don't want to spoil it anymore, though I'd love to. I would give this maybe 8.75. And of that, maybe 3 points entirely for the art.
Yeah, isn't Pat Gleason great?
Yeah,
I'm a little spoiled just because over on the DC side, Pat Gleason's been doing Superman and Green Lantern and Batman for years and years now. So
Right.
like I'm already like seasoned with this stuff, and I'm like, oh, I'm so excited to be seeing him drawing Spider-Man in full. It just looks so great.
Right, right. Even the coloring, the entire lighting and everything, that's like, the sky itself looks beautiful.
Yeah, it's like there are just so many great action shots
I know.
and like yeah, just there's like that one shot of just like Ben Reilly in motion in the air. Beautiful stuff.
Right, right.
I haven't read this one yet, but it is on my list. I read 75, and I'm excited to keep it going. I've just been a little wrapped up.
Right,
yeah.
right. Oh,
Yeah,
you
no.
should do this.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I did get a chance to read Amazing Spider-Man 76. This one got an 8.5 for me. I think I'm gonna steal Cyril's point as well and give 3 points just for the art from Pat Gleason because he's just incredible, and I just love his character work. This story is really good too. I mean, it is like just like really snappy and like I would even say fast paced, but not in a way that feels rushed. It's just like it's intense and it's driving, and it's just really good. And it is almost exactly what I think people had wanted out of this kind of setup, which is Ben Reilly's moment to shine while Pete is trying to put his body back together, and that is like it is just told in such a great way, such a genuine way that I love it. So Kirk, yeah, I definitely recommend when you have a chance reading this issue. It's
Yeah.
if they maintain this level of quality for the weekly Spider-Man stuff that they're promising to do, it's going to be a really exciting ride for Ben Reilly for the next couple months.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
it's like a thriller. It's like watching a thriller unfold in front of
Absolutely.
you. And there's
Yeah.
this one page where you see the page is divided into two, and there's Peter Parker on one side and Ben Reilly on the other.
Yeah,
one in the
that
hospital
was so
gown and one
great.
in Spider-Man. Yeah, it's art is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome, yeah. I'm definitely going to check it out. It's just, especially since I've got this Spider-Man-less week here in between to prepare for myself for issue 77. I'm all in, especially with, like we said, those January solicitations. They're teasing that January is going to be a big time to be Ben Reilly fans.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
I think this is like essentially just banging that drum, of getting people excited about Ben Reilly again, and then like you said, January, new flashback Ben Reilly series that you can get excited for, and just get your Ben Reilly Spider-Man fix on.
You're right. Banging the drum and banging it well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, next we're going to move over to X-Men number 4, brought to us by Jerry Duggan on writing, Javier Pina on art, Eric Arcaniega on color, and Clayton Cowles on lettering. Brandon, I'll hand this one over to you for the
My
summary.
pleasure. This is a perfect Spooktober themed issue. I'm like kicking myself because I almost wanted to save it for Halloween. Like I was just going to read it on Halloween because it's so perfect for that. But I had to read it early because I'm a greedy bastard. But I think I'll probably end up rereading it, when Halloween rolls around next weekend. But yeah, no, this is a very simple premise. It is Nightmare shows up in New York City looking for Doctor Strange, but Doctor Strange is dead, and yet he is just so like tantalized by the presence of the X-Men and their nightmares that he is like, I gotta get it, I gotta get in on it. So he ends up, teasing and toying with the X-Men's dreams and memories, only to come to realize that he decided to toy with one of the most powerful Omega-level telepaths this side of the universe, Jean Grey, who really shows him what's what and decides to give him a little lesson in what happens when you decide to fuck with an Omega-level telepath, and really just sends him packing, and he will not be showing up at the X-Men treehouse anytime soon. And Jean returns back to the treehouse, and Scott's a little worse for wear, but Jean's like, "Don't worry about it. I took care of it." because now we know who really wears the pants in that relationship. But we also get some developments on some of the other subplots. Ben Urich is just doing more investigative work on, this strange occurrence of X-Men who were dead coming back to life and seemingly having graves that were disturbed and bodies that were exhumed and that sort of thing. And the kind of Elon Musk-esque figure, Fei Long, is still planning his exodus to Mars and, damn anyone who tries to get in his way, and is really trying to infuse himself with almost like cosmic rays in this sense to basically make sure that his body is ready for Mars. And whatever he is planning in Mars, I have no idea. I mean, he just seems really fixated on getting there for his own ego, but what he's actually planning to do when he gets there, I guess we'll have to see. But while this issue might seem fillery, which is not a word, but I'm using it anyway, while it might seem like filler to some, I just kind of saw it as like hey, we're doing like a fun, Halloween-themed issue, and we're going to plant some seeds for some of the future developments. But I just had a really fun time reading it, honestly, and I thought the artwork was pretty good, too. So I ended up giving this one an 8 out of 10. And I love the cover from Pepe. That is, like, such a great tribute to the Headless Horseman. Like, my God.
Yes, I was just going to say that. The cover was amazing. It reminded me of, the Legend of Sleepy Hollow, the movie poster, right? I guess that's the same.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Amazing work. I couldn't finish the comic. I just read probably the initial pages, but impressed with whatever I've read. I would give it maybe about 7, just like that, just for the artwork. I flipped through it.
Yeah. I would say when you get a chance, maybe save this one, for next Sunday when it's actually Halloween, and have a fun little Halloween themed read.
We'll do that. We'll do that.
Yeah, I gave this one an 8 out of 10. I enjoyed the art. I liked it as a loose tie-in to the death of Doctor Strange. With Marvel's unfortunate production timeline getting askewed lately, there's always a worry that like these events that are happening in other comics kind of aren't happening. But her referencing "shame on you for coming here while Doctor Strange is dead," so like that event is happening. All that stuff is real in this universe, which is just a nice reminder.
Yeah.
And then Jean was a badass, and we got that teaser about what's coming up in the next sort of drama of the X-Men, and that last shot with what's his name in the cemetery, Ben Urich. Like, I'm interested. I want to see the X-Men sort of confront this next problem.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if their whole secret of resurrection actually does come to light, because we have been, and this is something that has been both teased in Inferno and in X-Men. It's this idea that like people are getting closer. Actually, in the trial of Magneto too, it's like people are getting closer to sort of understanding the idea that the X-Men are coming back, but they don't know how. And everyone's like almost in a race to try and figure out how in the hell they're actually doing it. So it'll be interesting to see, if someone actually ends up blowing the doors open on the whole secret, and how much chaos that's going to ensue, or how much chaos will ensue.
All right. Next up in our spooky month coverage, Darkhold Iron Man. Brought to us by Ryan North, Guillermo Sana on art, Ian Herring on color, and Clayton Cowles on lettering. Cyril, I'll pass this one over to you because I don't think Brandon or I had a chance to read this one yet, unfortunately.
Right. I'm going to be a little brutal on this. I didn't really enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it. I think anything that's apart from mainstream, let's anything like a What If, or which is not exactly the same character, it really should blow you away. That story should be maybe like the current. Can we discuss MCU here?
Yeah,
that's splendid. The current What If series that's on Disney Plus. The very first one, it had a different take on Captain America with Peggy Carter coming in, Captain Carter. I'm not a fan of anything that doesn't. When you're doing a What If, it should really set the bar really, really high. Otherwise, you have a lot of disappointed people like me reading this particular issue. It's more of a body horror issue. I guess that's in keeping with the Darkhold theme and with Spooktober happening. It had images of Iron Man literally leaking from every single pore, and several deaths here and there. Disappointed. Just that's my personal opinion, not a body horror person. And like I said, a what if series should really blow your mind. Otherwise, it's not like, it's not a what if. It's like, hey, come on, don't do this. So, yeah, I would probably rate this 4.5. I'm not sure if I'm being too brutal, but yeah, 4. I'm trying to be
tough
charitable
one.
there.
But yeah, we've definitely been tough on
definitely
some
don't
books.
hold back.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. I guess with all the artwork's got its own style, which is totally different from all the other series. So for me to pick this up after reading the others, and like a majestic, amazing Spider-Man, was a little bit of a come down. So I think I'm being a little unfair on this, but yeah, didn't really enjoy it, and hence the low score.
Hey, you're only being unfair if you don't give your honest opinion, so we appreciate this.
Yes, this is honesty colored with a little bit of bias, which is why I'm a little uncomfortable saying that. Yeah, that's it from me on Darkhold Iron Man.
All right. Yeah, and we sort of expected Darkhold to at least go the body horror route from the start.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's definitely in line with our expectations of the series. I am disappointed that the issue didn't really blow you away, because I did like the intro. I thought it was like a fine introduction to the concept. I just, I guess I hoped for a little bit more, and I was just too wrapped up in other comics to get around to this one, unfortunately.
Yeah. Same here.
But I'm interested in the other designs of some of the characters they've chosen for Darkhold, so I will try and catch up on both this issue and what happens in the other Darkhold issues. So expect some of our coverage to continue on Darkhold.
Yeah, right. It'll be great to discuss the entire Darkhold series, maybe in a forthcoming episode.
All right. Next, we've got the thrilling conclusion of Gamma Flight. This is issue 5 by Al Ewing and Crystal Frazier, Lan Medina on art, Antonio Fabela on color, and Joe Sabino on lettering. I also missed this one with some family stuff. But Brandon, I will hand it over to you to talk Gamma Flight. I'm excited to hear about it because I am reading this one this afternoon.
Yeah, my pleasure. So basically, this is quite literally the wrap up of the whole Scar stockpile. That sort of plot angle of how they're actually tying everything together, and I think we get a lot of resolution in this issue of some of the dynamics that I think people have been wanting to explore, especially with Scar and Abomination and all those guys, and I think that was kind of satisfying to see, because I remember, even though I was kind of late to the party with Immortal Hulk, some of the bigger questions were, where is Abomination? Where are all these other Hulk characters? Well, what are they up to? How do they feel about some of the current changes? And this was kind of answering that. And so we kind of get to see both Scar and Abomination kind of reconcile their own relationship, as well as some of the characters that had been really just screwed up by the Immortal Hulk run, like the Rick Jones and Del Fry kind of fusion, which was just, it was great body horror if that's your thing, but it was just horrifying to look at. But that, thankfully, mercifully, is finally brought to its conclusion as Del Fry and Rick Jones are separated by a device used by some of the former shadow-based people, and they are separated and seemingly in good health. Rick Jones looks like he's, I guess, normal again. I don't even know if he has any gamma powers, but it was just a really nice, satisfying conclusion for this team and this story, and it was good to see both Stockpile and Del and Rick Jones just kind of have their satisfying conclusions. And even Scar kind of have a moment where he is sort of able to be like, yeah, I was kind of led by Abomination in this way, but I'm kind of on my own now. I need to work towards the stuff that I want to do, which was nice. So I just thought it was a pretty satisfying conclusion for this miniseries, and it wasn't anything grand, but I think if you were someone who liked Gamma Flight from the Immortal Hulk book, this was just kind of a really satisfying storyline, and was kind of able to dig into some of the characters a little bit more, because I noticed that it was almost like a motif through each issue. It basically begins with narration from a different person from Gamma Flight, and you really get a sense of who they are as a character, and all that stuff is just done really well. So I enjoyed it, and I think as a conclusion, you'll enjoy it too. Cyril, I'm not sure if you've been following this series, but I think we have all the back issues available. So if you get a chance, and if you've been reading Immortal Hulk, I would definitely recommend checking this one out. It was just kind of a satisfying read for this team.
I will be doing that.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Now we're into our soapbox, the comics where we really want to get up and we have a lot to talk about or a lot to say on them. And we're going to start with the strongest one there is.
Jeez, back to back. Oh, man. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Brandon. I guess we did this out of order, but...
No, that's okay.
We're going to cover Immortal Hulk number 50 next.
No, I meant more back to back as in this kind of Hulk setting, because we have Gamma Flight and now we have Immortal Hulk number 50, so it's really bringing everything to a close.
Yeah. And so this one, writing by Al Ewing, Joe Bennett on pencils, Rui Jose and Bellardino Bravo on ink, Paul Mounts on color, and Corey Pettit on lettering. And I'm going to hand this one over to Brandon. But
yeah,
damn.
This is a monumental issue, an immortal issue, you might even say, if you really wanted to put a fine point on it, in that it is the culmination of everything, and I really do mean everything that they have been building to in Hulk so far. And this is one of those issues where when Marvel says it is an 80-page giant, it is an 80-page giant, because I think this thing took me in total about 45 minutes to read. But this summary will take a considerably less amount of time than that. So let's start a little bit with the structuring of this issue. So there is the main story, our A story, where Hulk... why am I blanking on her name? Oh my God, the journalist that Hulk has been traveling with for a little bit. Oh my God, something McGee.
Yeah, I'm no better at this point.
No, I need to know her name. Damn. Guess we gotta go to Google. Hang on. Sorry, folks.
Her name is
Jackie McGee. That was
Jacqueline McGee.
Jacqueline McGee. I was just like, I'm sorry. I'm so terrible with names sometimes. Like, I can remember plot points and stuff like that, but names, they will just ooze out of your brain. But anyway, as I was saying, really there are two stories here. There's kind of our A story involving the Cosmic Hulk, Joe Fixit, the kind of baby Hulk that we know and love, who talks like a child, and Jackie McGee venturing into the below place, what we know is hell, to rescue Bruce Banner from the leader, who has now been possessed by the One Below All. That is our kind of main story, and our B story really revolves around two people in the early 1900s, I guess, ancestor of Samuel Stearns, the leader, who is kind of like this religious zealot, and his brother, Robert Stearns, who has been experimenting with Gamma. And I won't go too into detail on the kind of B story. Basically, that just kind of revolves around a falling out between older brother and younger brother, where Sam finds out that his older brother has been, to put it not so delicately, making time with his wife in a way that he is not very happy about, and lashes out about that. And I think that really was kind of thematically supposed to set up some stuff that we have come to know about the Banner family, because Samuel Stearns, his wife, as we later learn, is a Banner, is an ancestor of Banner. And there's this great moment. I won't go too into detail on it, but as he kind of, expels his wife from his life after finding out about her infidelity, and literally closes the door on her face, we discover that door is green, and that door was always green. And I was like, oh my God, that is just so fucking clever. Like, such a way to kind of build that thematic legacy of what the green door will come to represent in Bruce Banner's life and so forth. But I'm dancing around the A story right now because there's a lot there. There's a lot to unpack, and if you have not been reading this run, a lot of it will be a little bit confusing. But to kind of sum it up, it basically revolves around them making their ascent through the leader's fortress and kind of all of the Easter eggs that come with it, and really it is the baby Hulk that kind of busts through first, and then is followed by the Cosmic Hulk and Jackie McGee, and that whole the whole layout of the leader's fortress is kind of allegorical to a lot of some of the experiences that Hulk has been through and some of the people that he's met throughout his life. And there are, I guess, a lot of callbacks to Hulk history, both some that we've established in this run and some from previous runs. And like I said, it is really just a culmination of everything. And it I think serves as a great way for Al Ewing to kind of make his thesis statement about what the Hulk represents, his whole history and everything, as we come towards the end, where they face off against the One Below All, as they now basically understand that the leader has become completely possessed by this point, and that all remnants of who the leader was are gone, and that has just become a shell of the One Below All. And that is sort of when we get this really great moment from both the Cosmic Hulk and the Baby Hulk, where they confront the One Below All and basically say, what is my purpose? They get real existential with it and say, why am I here? What am I here to exist for? Why is there a Hulk? And I will not spoil the reasons given or what is actually there or who actually says it, but what I will say is that basically it ties back to an idea that was introduced, if you remember, from the very first issue of Hulk, which just blew my mind how well this thing all ties together. But if you remember from Immortal Hulk all the way back from 2018, that very first issue of that kind of how it opens, and I actually had to go back and reread it, there are two people that you see in every mirror. The one that you see and the one that you don't see, which is really supposed to represent evil and good, or good and evil on both sides. And this idea of existing in between two extremes. There are good people on one end, there are evil people on other end, and the Hulk kind of rests somewhere in between, in that he can represent both good and evil, but is not really sure where that is supposed to be. And it's almost like this never-ending nature of questioning whether you will be good or whether you will be evil. And someone reveals this to him. Again, I will not spoil it because it is an excellent reveal, but I thought that was just a great way for Al and company to make their point on what the Hulk actually represents, about whether he is this kind of beast, this monster, or whether he is a figure for good, or, and I'm about to blow your mind, people, or is he both, right? If you remember from that very first trade, from the very first issue, is he good, is he evil, or is he both? Or is he neither? That's really up for us to determine, but the kind of question that Al leaves us with is central to that. And long story short, they're able to both save Bruce Banner as well as Sam Stearns, the leader, who has seemingly had his fill of gamma-filled adventures, and he just wants a normal life at this point. Like, he's way out there. He's like, I've seen way too much. I need to never question things again. It's like, yeah, after this I probably wouldn't either. But thankfully, as they return from the Forever Gate with some assistance from Dr. I don't really know what to call him at this point. The fusion of Dr. Lankowski and oh my God, I'm so bad with names.
Shoot, now my
I
brain's
know.
filling.
Oh my god. It's also because I may be a little tired, so I apologize, people at home. But oh my god, this is embarrassing. Doc Samson. Doc Samson, that's his name. The fusion of Walt Lankowski and Doc Samson. I guess they're just calling him Doc Lankowski or whatever. But anyway, with some assistance from the Fantastic Four and Doc Lankowski, they're able to bring back everyone from the below place, and I guess seemingly fix Bruce Banner, who is almost kind of has all of his personalities compressed into one body again and is normal, which I guess is kind of a clean way to set everything up for the new Hulk series that will be coming next month from Mr. Cates and Mr. Otley. But yeah, I mean, again, this was an issue that was an incredibly long, incredibly dense read, but I think for me a very satisfying read, and I almost kind of had to, once I finished, step away from it for a little while and just really think about what it all meant and some of the deeper thematic stuff that was really buried under the surface. It just gave me a lot to think about, and I think hands down this run will go down as one of the best Hulk runs, certainly one of the most thoughtful Hulk runs out there. And for those who have not had a chance to read this series, if we have not been hyping it up, me and Kirk, please go check it out when you have a chance. It has just been a phenomenal ride so far, and I was just really satisfied with the dismount. So I ended up giving this one a 9 out of 10. Wow. It was just a great way to tie everything together, and I loved it.
Yeah, for this one, there's very little I can say that Brandon hasn't already covered, but the thematic pieces of why is there a Hulk, what really spoke to me in that question was sort of revisiting the question of why Hulk, of all comic characters, is something that has routinely come up and been popular. People always talk about how comic books reflect some piece of something that someone is either dealing with or aspires to. And Hulk originally was all about, the anger and the will of something that you can't control. And there was a strong relation to that a lot of people found, because Hulk grew in popular.
Yeah.
This classic Jekyll and Hyde tale really appealed.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And then as the story grew, why is there a Hulk ends up becoming more and more of a question, especially since we've gone through many now decades of that character growing and trying to advance. We've had smart Hulks, we've had Joe Fix-It Hulks, we've had Hulkless Banners, we've had all of these different elements, but it always comes back. And for the comic to sort of meta ask itself both in and outside, why is there a Hulk? And what does it mean to have a Hulk?
Yeah, absolutely.
Was a really cool, thought-provoking thing, and I really spent a lot of time thinking about that, because we are about to go into a new Hulk issue that I don't expect to be as cerebral, but I do expect to answer the question in its own way, like...
Yeah, definitely.
What we get out of this new Hulk comic should answer the question of why do we have a Hulk?
Yeah, I think that's yeah. I think that's like a perfect way to put it. Of like this character, why does he continue to persist and that sort of thing? That's a great way to put it.
Mm-hmm. And it was just because of that. It was fun to watch. It was fun to look at. Like the art in these books are outstanding.
Mind-blowing.
The story,
yeah.
I can't think of too many 50-issue runs where I'm like, guys, this run,
this is it.
Yeah, but I don't know. I loved it. I had a bit of the big A plot twist. Calling it a twist is wrong, but the big A plot reveal spoiled for me, and I still enjoyed this comic. I gave it a 9.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Honestly, if I'm being honest, it maybe almost deserves a 10 out of 10, because I genuinely can't think of a thing to take marks off of.
No,
for it,
neither can I.
But I'm very hard pressed to give a 10 out of 10. But I want the audience to know that I'm struggling not to say that this is a 10 out of 10 book.
Yeah, it is. Seriously, it is a phenomenal wrap up to this run so far, yeah, I don't know, like I feel like there's so much still that can be said, but we don't want to be here for hours. But again, what I will say, and I think Kirk definitely knows this better than me or Cyril, is that please, I mean, you can still enjoy it with it, but please do not have this book spoiled for you if you have been reading it so far, because that reveal is just like, you need it to just come naturally. Otherwise, it's like, I would say that to have that reveal just come to you and you're just like, what is I would say really satisfying. So don't have it spoiled. If you have friends who are reading it, don't have them send any spoilers. Don't look at like Newsarama or CBR or anything. Don't let them get you early.
I'm actually feeling bad that I didn't read this. It was an 80-page giant, and I thought, let me save this for later when I have the time. And I obviously didn't have the time. But then, wow, the way you guys are speaking about this, I should probably spend the time, make time for reading this, and probably reading it literally cover to cover, spending at least 3 minutes per page, admiring the story as well as the art.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, man.
I flipped through the book and I found several splash pages, and I think there were a couple of M.C. Escher stairwells as well, right? Hulk seeing multiple versions of himself walking up and down the stairs. Art was mind-blowing, yeah. Yes. Okay, this is on my reading list, for sure.
All right.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Now, back to our program.
All right. Next up, we've got Trial of Magneto, issue number 3, brought to us by writer Leah Williams, Lucas Wernick, and David Messina on art, Edgar Delgado on coloring, and lettering by Clayton Cowles. So this issue continues the Trial of Magneto arc with the death of Wanda, who was revealed to have returned in some way at the end of last issue. And this issue clears up a bit that this Wanda appears to have been resurrected using an old backup from Cerebro, because she does not know who many of the people here are. She refers to Magneto as her father. She believes she is still married to Vision. She does not recognize Billy and Tommy. And so they decide that they have to figure out how to communicate with her that she, or what has happened in the interim, in the time since she died, how to fill in her missing memories, at the very least so she can remember her sons. And then, in there, we get brief more interaction from North Star and Magneto. North Star actually getting like some damage in on Magneto.
Yeah, he's really pissed.
That he was really pissed and really threatening Magneto and proving that maybe he could be a threat to Magneto, which is a really cool look for him. And then we get to a kaiju attack. 3 giant super monsters show up, and the random groups of some Avengers and some X-Men teaming up to fight the kaijus. We get Sync and Wasp fighting one. We get Wolverine and who else? Anywho, we get team ups.
Yeah, really just everyone.
Of them fighting kaijus, and they defeat them, and then there's a big reveal at the end that in some sort of chaos dimension that something else is still going on with Wanda. So this book, I have a sort of weird feeling on it. I loved Trial of Magneto 1 and 2. I really did.
Yep.
And by this point, we're now past the halfway point of this 5-part mini. And I definitely don't think we are in a place where we should be having a random kaiju fight filler issue. And maybe I'm being too hard on it, but one thing that I'm going to have to cover, this series is not shaping up to be what was promised. In June, they killed Wanda at the Hellfire Gala, and they told us that we were getting a 5-part mini called The Trial of Magneto that was really going to focus hard on an X-Factor investigation of Magneto and a trial of him proving himself innocent or whatever happened between him and Wanda. We're now well past the halfway point. X-Factor has not done much of an investigation, aside from punching Magneto in the face. Like, they did a little bit, and then Wanda came back at the end of issue 2, and then we're having a kaiju fight. Like, there's no trial here, and realistically, based on what they reveal at the end of this issue, this 5-part mini is about Wanda.
Yeah, it feels a little deceptive, and well, I think that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, you could certainly still have an interesting story. I feel like this issue was I mean, I don't want to be totally mean on it, but just like the definition of filler, where it was literally just like, we just need something to take space until we can get to the last 2 issues that will be more important. Because like there's like a just random kaiju fight for like, what was like 7 pages or something. Yeah, it was like just totally unexplained. It just happens, and they're just like, okay, and then suddenly Wanda, and then the issue's over. It's like, what? What just happened? Almost like they were about to start answering questions, and they're like, oh shit, wait, I need to do that in the 4th issue, not the 3rd issue. So let's just have a random kaiju fight, and we'll deal with that instead.
Yeah. and that was it. Was this book is in the middle of a series that I'm interested, and I'm invested in it going to somewhere cool. Wanda's relationship with mutant kind is something that I think needs to be explored in the new age of mutants.
Yeah, for sure.
And the new age of mutants being allowed as part of the Marvel Universe again. The big Fox Marvel divide affected comic books and this character more than probably any other character in terms of how they could be represented in the comics. The X-Men were relegated to just like, they're in their own corner and they're not allowed to be in anything else. But this character literally was stripped of her status as a mutant because of that drama.
Yeah.
So it's cool, and I want them to explore it, and I want it to be something. And I also really feel like if there wasn't an ongoing series right now called Death of Doctor Strange, that this series could have been called Death of the Scarlet Witch, and like wouldn't have even noticed the difference, because it's not a Magneto-centric story, really. Not anymore.
No. I mean, he's kind of taken the back seat, you know, and there really hasn't been a trial in any sense. I mean, it's more just like they have accused him, he got mad about it, they put him out, then he woke up again and, you know, started stalling and you know, to make sure they didn't get the body, and then now we're here, right? And it's like he hasn't really had a moment where he defends himself. He just is kind of like, I didn't do it, and then I did do it, but I'm only saying that because I need to stall you guys so we can do something with the body.
And they also, in the last other piece that I have to knock this issue on, is they teased that Billy was going to be he was going to powerfully react to what happened. You know, he's a reality warper as well, and he felt the death of his mother, and that he was, like, they teased that there was going to be some big drama, but he shows up just in time for them to be like, wait a minute, that's not Mom, and him to be like, yeah, duh.
Yeah.
And like, that's his entire reaction. He's like, that's Wanda, but that's not Mom. And it's like, oh, that's the whole
He's really
payoff
torn up
for
about
that.
it.
Like, I don't know. This issue, I want 4 and 5 to really come back and knock it out of the park. So this is just a blip on the radar. but I didn't love how they spent their time here. Though seeing some weird mutants interact with the Avengers was cool. Like Captain America talking to Eye-Boy.
Really
I was like,
nice.
this is kind of fun. So I'm not going to give it too hard a scoring. I gave it a 6.5 out of 10. It's, if you're reading The Trial of Magneto and provided it doesn't go downhill from here, you're not going to hate buying this one. But it is a dip in the quality if what you're expecting is to continue sort of the hype from number 2.
Yeah, no, this one got a 6 out of 10 for me. I mean, if you want to watch the X-Men fight kaiju randomly for 10 pages, here you go. But in terms of any relevance to what we'd been trying to establish with the story so far, it was just kind of a disappointment.
I agree. I think issue number 1 and number 2, it really progressed the story forward, and this was like bringing it down by a few notches.
Yeah.
I think I'd be a little more harsh. I would probably give it 5.5, and the negative from 6 would be entirely for the kaiju piece, which there was no rhyme or reason for that, unless they showed that somebody planted these monsters were there for a reason. It really didn't make any sense. I was totally confused. For a little while initially, when Wanda was still kind of realizing who she is, I thought it could be a kind of a throwback to what we saw in Death of Doctor Strange. It's a Doctor Strange from the past coming to grips on what's happening, but then it soon turned out to be a totally different situation. Yeah, kind of disappointed, but then it's the middle issue. It's getting the middle child treatment. I'm sure that issues number 4 and number 5. I'm really looking for them to really pick up the pace and bring this to a conclusion, a really meaningful and satisfactory conclusion. Because number 1 and number 2 really set it up for that kind of pace and that kind of trajectory.
Yeah, I really hope so.
Yeah.
Awesome. And our final issue today, we have Thor issue 18 by Donny Cates, with guest artists Pascal Ferry and Bob Quinn, with Matt Wilson on color and Joe Sabino on lettering. And Brandon, do you want to talk about
My
Thor?
pleasure. So Odin's son is not happy. Mjolnir is missing, and he's like, what the hell do I do? So he decides to call on someone that he normally would not call on in any situation, especially not to handle something as important as the disappearance of Mjolnir, but decides to swallow his pride a little bit and actually say the words, "Please help me," to his dear brother Loki, who replies with a very sincere and honest no. I'm not going to do that, right? The last time I tried to help you with Mjolnir, I was just traumatized by the whole Donald Blake thing. I do not want to go through that again. And he's like, yeah, but, I need you. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do this. You have other people that you can call on. Let's be honest. You really just need a spy anyway. And then he kind of realizes what Thor was driving at this whole time, which is he needs someone to get spies for him. He needs someone who he can trust to get spies. And who does he know that he can, who does he know that he can call on that would serve as an excellent spy? And that's when we go to the wonderful realm of the Forever Glade, told in such flowery, captions and dialogue and that sort of thing, where Throg arrives triumphant, having returned from vanquishing the evil Donald Blake, and everyone loves him for it. And his moment of triumph is almost immediately upstaged by the arrival of Thor, who's literally just like, I hope I didn't, interrupt your moment of glory there, Throg. And you can tell he's a little upset about that. But Throg thankfully gets his moment to shine, where he's like, Thor basically is stammering over trying to ask for help. And he's like, dude, I already know Mjolnir's missing and you need someone to find it, right? And he's like, oh my God, how do you? He's like, I am already aware for these things. I know everything. Throg knows everything, he says quite literally. And so the rest of the issue is basically like, all right, Throg has decided to become Nick Fury of the MCU and needs to put his team of Avengers together. And no, I'm not bullshitting you. He's literally putting his team of Avengers together, and that team consists of Hugin and Munin, the ravens who have been acting as like Thor's eyes and ears across the realms of Midgard, Lockjaw, Lockheed, Kitty Pride's dragon, and seemingly what you think is going to be Doctor Strange prior to his death, but is actually Bats the ghost dog, which I thought was great. And he's putting together his little team of animals and spies that will go out and seek information on where Mjolnir might have disappeared to. But again, don't just call them spies, call them the Avengers. And that's basically it. It was just a lot of fun to read, and I was just like, oh, I'm totally here for this team of all animal spy Avengers. And I fully expect Marvel to do a 5-issue miniseries of Throg and his Avengers after this, and I would definitely read every single issue of that. But no, it was just a lot of fun, and I think it's kind of like a setup towards what we're going to be getting in the next arc, where they'll really be trying to answer the question of where did Mjolnir actually go and what happened to it. I think it'll just be really cool. So I actually gave this one an 8.5. It was a quick read, but it was very satisfying, and I thought the art from Pascal Ferry and Bob Quinn, actually, who had been doing some great stuff on Way of X, did a really great job here. So yeah, it was just a solid read all around.
Well, that's
I gave this one a
go on, Kirk.
I gave this one a 7.5. I liked the issue. It was fun. It was a good read. But it really was just a bringing the team together issue. We just get a lot of shots of Throg recruiting some unlikely animal Avengers for a really dramatic splash page. But honestly, Throg, Lockheed, Lockjaw, and Bats and Hugin and Munin. Yeah. It's a good team. Should be fun.
Yeah.
I do love that the line that Throg gives is, we may be spies, but when we come together, you will know us as the Avengers.
It's like it is so over the top, but I love it.
Like, I love Throg. Really weirdly, he's such a goofy character, but every time he usually hits this perfect pace of he's really goofy, but he doesn't think he's really
No,
goofy.
he is speaking like entirely genuinely. Like he is like, yes, I am, great, but you're hearing like this almost like posturing, very king-like speak from a
Throg
frog.
knows everything.
Yeah, it's great. It's so great.
But yeah, I really enjoyed the issue. It doesn't really do much in the way of action or tension. And I think so next issue we're probably going to get the resolution of this Throg quest, and I think then we're supposed to launch into the God of Hammers arc that they've been teasing.
Yes.
Which I'm excited for. I hope it's good. All right. That is our last comic of the day. So now let's we can go around and we can share what our top 3 and our favorite panel of the week are. Who wants to start?
I'll kick off. I think I'll probably have 3 of them. Number 1 is the one from Spider-Man, the one that showed Ben Reilly on the right and Peter Parker on the left. It made for a wonderful image on 2 different Spider-Mans with 2 different fates in store. That's probably my number 1. That will be number 1 by leaps and frog, by a giant margin, because I guess the entire art in Spider-Man is superior to anything else that Marvel's doing right now. My personal opinion, guys. Please don't bash me up after this show for that. Number 2 would be Throg. I think the swagger in which he says Throg knows everything. Ultimately, I think he sips a glass of wine or something and puts it back and says, "I'll need a team." That "I'll need a team." The swagger in which he says that. I think that's great. Then I think the entire MC Escher stable from Hulk, Immortal Hulk. I think Immortal Hulk will have several of them. This one jumped at me because I'm an Escher fan. I guess these 3 would be my top picks.
Awesome. Brandon?
Yeah, at number 3, I had Amazing Spider-Man 76. That was just it's been really just a super solid storyline so far, and I'm here for it, and I'm excited to see what comes next. At 2, I had Thor number 18. Even if it was like really just kind of an establishment issue, I just really enjoyed it. Like it was just a fun way to kind of set up what comes next, and a fun way to tell it. But at number 1, I feel like this should come as no surprise. It was Immortal Hulk number 50. Just an excellent issue all around. I mean, I seriously, I could spend forever on that issue. Forever on this run entirely. If I'm being entirely honest, it's just. I think, hands down, it's gonna go down as one of my favorite Marvel runs in recent memory, and I think in a lot of people's memory as well. It's just a remarkable job.
Well, I thought we were discussing panels. Sorry, I misunderstood the question.
Oh, no, that's okay. Yeah, no, it's our top 3 books for the week, and then a particularly standout moment if you have one. But yeah, you're totally fine. You can have 3 standout moments. That's okay. I mean, I don't know, Kirk, will you allow that?
Oh, absolutely. And and then we'll circle back to Cyril for his top 3 issues of the week as well.
Right.
So he can put those in.
Oh yeah, and I guess my favorite moment of this week is probably the aforementioned spoiler from Immortal Hulk that I will not go into, but trust me, you'll know where it is when you see it.
Yeah, I know exactly which panel you're referring to, and it's a good one. So Cyril, what were your top 3 books for this week?
Well, Amazing Spider-Man is number 1. I think The Death of Doctor Strange would be number 2. I really haven't read Immortal Hulk, otherwise I'm sure that would have been number 1, and maybe ASM would be number 2, and Doctor Strange would be number 3. But yeah, number 3 would be, that's kind of tough. It's a book that we haven't really covered. It's Black Panther. Some great artwork and a good retelling of the origin story. So yes, number 1, 2, and 3.
Awesome. All right, and for me, I think my number 3 is X-Men number 4. It's a great Halloween issue. And then number 2, I'll give it to Fantastic Four 37. I really just had a good time with that book. It was fun. And number 1, I've got to give it to Immortal Hulk. But unless something surprises us in the future, it's going to be a while until an Immortal Hulk takes my number 1 of the week again. So you guys aren't going to hear us.
I know,
harping about how good it is for a little while, but
unless Hulk number 1 is just this amazing masterpiece, and I'm still holding my breath about that one because we'll see. But yeah, hey, we're gonna miss the days where Immortal Hulk was top of the charts every time.
Mm-hmm. And then for my favorite panel, I want to give my favorite panel to. In Death of Doctor Strange, the splash page of Crown, Weird, and Crawling all standing together, like, they're so creepy.
Oh yeah.
And I do like them as, like, grotesque villains. Like, I think they're on the cover of one of the next issues, or on a variant cover of one of the next issues, and I like them. They're gross.
Yeah, they're gross for sure.
Especially Crawling.
With all the worms coming out.
All right. And now we get to share what's your least favorite issue of the week. I think I'm just going to start with mine. It's a tragedy, but I think Trial of Magneto has to take my least favorite issue this week.
Oh, that was mine too.
Mine too. Unanimous.
Yeah. Just, I mean, and again, I don't even know that it's, again, a terrible issue. It's just, I think, for me, it's the lowest one because it was so disappointing as compared to the other 2.
Yeah, honestly, a filler issue of X-Men and even with some Avengers team-ups fighting some kaiju, in a lot of other scenarios, wouldn't have been dished on this hard. The art is nice, and, like, a good old-fashioned kaiju fight, they happen in comic books. They're okay. Like, I would have probably given that a higher rating if it was sort of the point of what I was expecting, and it wasn't such an obvious stall to, like, they invited us to buy this issue for one reason, and then they were like, oh, we don't even have 5 issues worth of material, so let's drop a kaiju fight in there, is what it felt like. And that's why it jarred me so much. I don't feel like it was inherently bad. I just feel like it's not at all what is promised in this issue or in this series. But that's the end of our show today, everyone. Thank you so much, Brandon and Cyril, for reviewing these comics, and thank you so much to our listeners out there, all of you guys listening and participating and sharing, liking, all of that stuff. It really helps spread the word and gives us the ability to keep making more of the content you guys enjoy. And thank you to our Patreon supporters. Those contributions are really contributing to the network overall, and we're really excited to keep bringing you more content. If you're interested in our Patreon or any of the other shows Not a Robot's putting together, you can check them out at notarobotpodcast.com. And with that said, as always, there's only one way we say goodbye around here.
Until next time.
Be good to each other.
And don't be a robot.
Just